us a licensed medical professional who holds a doctorate in chiropractic. He's owned his own business for over 13 years and is experienced in sales and management, and has also coached and mentored other business development and operations businesses. He's continually furthering his knowledge base in real estate, health, and business through seminars, private coaches, and classes to make certain he's up to date in all areas. Together with his wife, Helen, their portfolio includes over 500 units in growing and thriving markets throughout the U.S. Please welcome Dr. Alex Tam to the show. How are you?
Doing great, doing great. Thank you for having me, Jillian.
Yes, there's so many things that I'm excited to talk to you about today because there's a lot of things that I love real estate too. I'm like, this is going to be a great conversation today. But first, I want to start with what, I feel like this is kind of the same thing, but I'm sure there's probably differences. But what came first, being a medical professional or being an entrepreneur?
Well, definitely being a medical professional as a doctor, that came first because you have to go through the studies, right? But right afterwards, within a few months, you really have to become an entrepreneur when you want to open your own practice. So that's really started in May of 2009. And it's been a journey, 13, 14 years now.
Wow, that is a long time. And I'm sure there's been so much that you have been through, but what's the most challenging day-to-day issue that occurs with running your business? Because I feel like there's a lot of differences with business owners that I talk with, but there's also a lot of similarities. So what is it for you?
I think the most challenging thing for a lot of businesses is getting the employees on the same page and making sure that you are speaking the right mission statement, your cultural, your values are all the same. I think that's the biggest one. Alignment, among the business so that everyone is on the same page.
And do you feel, because I know that you have multiple businesses, so you've got lots of stuff going on. You've got the real estate side of things, you've got your office side of things, you've got virtual business. So the through line between all those, is there one thing that's the same, or do you think that they're different because they're different businesses?
Well, every business that I've ever started is due to a need that was picked up either by me or someone that I knew. For example, the medical practice, the reason why I became a doctor was because my mom got sick, got helped by a natural doctor that have led me to this path. And from there, we have the virtual assistant business because I started using virtual assistants and I have 10 virtual assistants that help me out full time. Well, other business owners are like, Alex, what's going on? How are you getting so much done? So we eventually started the virtual assistant agency. And of course, with every business owner like yourself, when we make money, you got to park it somewhere and let it grow, right? That's kind of like, hey, your money's got to make babies.
Right, totally.
So that's where the real estate came in, and other doctors started asking me how to market themselves. And that's how we started the marketing agency a few years ago as well. So they kind of go hand in hand with each other.
That makes definite sense because you're right. There, you see this need and there's not a way that you can fill it because every business is different. But I like the fact that you've taken all those things that you've needed and really created exactly what you were looking for. And I'm sure by doing that, there was a ton of processes that involved. And what do you think is like your best process that makes day-to-day running of your small business just easier to run, more efficient?
I would say is having people and systems together. I mean, in the medical practice, we have our doctors, our nurse practitioners, our staff office manager. They're all integrated doing the same thing, right? After the same goal. And then you have the virtual assistant business where, well, our goal is to help other business owners and also real estate investors grow. It goes back to the alignment and making sure everyone understands why we're here and that we're all doing it in the same purpose, right? It's got to be purposeful for everybody. When they say, hey, when you got a headwind coming at you, going against you, it's so much harder than when everyone is going with you and with some tailwind behind you.
Well, and what's a great way? I know that a lot of small business owners, when they're thinking about adding staff on and they're just like, whew, it's a lot. What
Yeah.
do you think is the best way to, get our employees engaged and on board with our company's mission statement?
Well, the best thing is a lot of times for me is having one of our key employees on board the other employees because it's one thing coming from the owner while they understand it. But when they start seeing other employees doing the same thing as you grow a bigger team, now they understand, oh, it's not just the boss doing it, it's also other employees on the cultural alignment as well. And that is really helping to push that imbalance so that it's not just so everyone is balanced without the imbalance being there.
Absolutely. That is the great thing about that is because then not only do you get buy-in from the new employees,
Mm-hmm.
but your existing employees feel empowered because they are sharing this culture that they're living every day. And of course, they want to integrate those new folks into it. I think that's
Yes.
so smart to have employees help with that because I
Yes.
think there's not a lot of business owners that want to you know, give that job to someone else. They're like, oh, I'm the only one that can do it. But really, having an employee do it is better than having the business owner do it.
Right, right. It's that I'm a mentality. I'm going to
Yep.
do this, I'm going to do that, right?
Yep.
And we
Absolutely.
we that's how we became entrepreneurs. We became entrepreneurs because we know we can do it better. But reality is, can you do everything better? No, not
Nope.
necessarily. Someone who's going to have more reps into it is going to do it better than you. So why not learn how to delegate that who, not how mentality?
Absolutely. Now, when do you think is the right time to hire more employees? Is there a certain level of growth that you get to? Or, whether that's an entrepreneur that has multiple employees like you do, or maybe it's someone who's just starting out and is like, I know I need someone that's really good at this, but
Mhm.
I don't know when's the right time.
I would say by the time you thought of hiring an employee, you probably needed one a few months ago, right? It's not something that is like you just thought of it and it's like, oh, now you need one. No, you've probably been needing one. And as entrepreneurs, we're the worst ones. We're the worst ones at hiring other people. But when you start noticing, oh, I don't have time for this or I don't have time for that, you needed one a few months ago. And I usually say, you use the 80-20 rule. If you're almost 80% tapped out on your time, chances are is to hire somebody else to fill in for you so you can delegate some of these tasks.
That's a really good rule to follow just in
Mm-hmm.
your mind of thinking, okay, I'm getting close to the point of being completely tapped out. What are your tips for hiring new employees? Because there is definitely the virtual world, because I have virtual
Yeah,
assistants too, and they're amazing, have
they
helped
are.
me so much. And then, of course, we have employees that are here in the office with us. How do you decide which type of employee to hire or how to hire any employee at all? What are some tips for that?
I would look at, okay, there's two things in an employee. Are you hiring for skill or are you hiring for will, right? Are they willing to learn or are you hiring for the skill specifically? And it depends. If you need a graphics editor, right, who is going to be able to take on tasks and be able to help you edit graphics, videos right away, you got to have the skill. You can't just be all will, right? But whenever they have a skill, I always look for employees who has the will and the adaptability to be able to learn more so that they can grow with me. Because if you have an employee that just has skill but is stuck, right? Like they haven't really grown in their past or they're not willing to change and improve, well, then they're just going to be stuck. And now your business ends up being stuck as well.
Completely agree with that for sure. Now, tell me about so we're looking to hire an employee and you
Mm-hmm.
have multiple businesses, so I feel like this could span across all of them. So let's say for real estate example,
Yeah.
what is the best way, like where do you look to find someone? Because we definitely know that we want someone who's excited about the real estate market.
Right.
How do you find those people?
Well, say for a property manager, right, that we're hiring for, First off, I love referrals. Referrals is number one. Hey, did they do good for you? How do they perform for your property? Are they into it? Are they integrated in that area? Right. And then based on their tasks that they need to do, well, how well have they performed those tasks? Do they have a good track record? Right. And are they looking to grow or stay the same? I always look for people who want to grow, whether it's in real estate, a virtual assistant, whether it's a doctor or a nurse practitioner. Because if I'm looking to grow and scale in all forms of business, I need someone on my team who's going to be working towards that as well and not just stay stagnant.
That's perfect. I think that's something that sometimes entrepreneurs, we're looking for this specific task because it's something we don't want to do usually. Let's say video editing from my own perspective. And it's like, we want to make sure that that person wants to do more than just edit those videos. I think it's perfect to be like, we're not just looking for that specific task. We're looking for what else could that person help me with? I think that's huge because sometimes we don't always think far in advance. One question that I have for you is, because I'm a systems and processes girl, what are you using to manage all these businesses, all these people? Because it's got to be a massive undertaking to make sure that everybody's on the same page, everybody is moving towards that similar goal.
Right. So part of what we use in the office is making sure we are tracking everyone's KPIs, right? Our office manager understands what every person's role is. In our virtual assistant world, we use something called Monday.com to track the workflows, making sure everything's done, it's being checked off, right? We have leadership in place to make sure that everyone's doing what they're supposed to do, keeping everyone lined up the right way. And before we implement something, we always have a group, like a company meeting to make sure that, okay, here's the changes that needs to happen. This is why we're making these changes. And how is this change going to further accelerate us in our mission and vision? I think that's really important.
I love that you brought up the fact about the meetings because this is like across the board. You know, we've been doing this podcast for 3 years. We've met tons of business owners, helped tons of business owners.
Yeah.
But what are your thoughts on meetings? Because I have some people that are like, oh, nope, we don't do meetings. We just do it over Slack and, you know, Asana, Monday.com, whatever that is. But I have some people too, like my team, we meet every Monday. How do you determine that?
I'll tell you this. My medical team meets every morning. My virtual team meets every morning as well, even for 10 to 15 minutes, so that you can set the tone for that day. Because weekly meetings are good for like bigger things that needs to be delegated or worked on. But a day-to-day meeting is also good to keep everyone motivated. I mean, you look at Mondays, especially, or like a Tuesday early in the week, everyone's just coming back off the weekend. As a leader, whether you're in a leadership role or owner role, your job, part of it, is to keep everyone motivated at what they're doing and keeping the purpose in alignment in what everyone's doing. So I think meetings are important as long as they're relevant and it doesn't, like, you know, it's just going off tangent all over the place, you know?
Well, and I think it's nice too that you mentioned that it's a daily thing for your teams, because you're right. When you, even if it doesn't have to be an hour every single time, it could be super short. It's just making sure that everybody's on that same page and refocusing so that way we can stay consistent with that goal that we're working towards.
Right.
And sometimes those short, like recentering meetings could be huge for a team,
They
especially
are.
one as large as yours.
Right. They are huge. Yeah, no doubt about that.
Oh, that's so cool. So what are some other things? Like, this is a question that I ask of each of my podcast guests, is that if you could give a small business owner one piece of advice, what would it be?
You know, a lot of times we have thoughts, whether or not if it's the right thing to do, but our fears hold us back, right? The fear of, well, what if this happens? Or what if that happens, right? And one advice I will give a business owner is just try it. How would you know unless if you tried it? You know, fear can hold us back, right? From really excelling in different things. But if you just try it, and you know what? If it flops, it flops. And it's okay, right? There's two things. You either find someone who's done it and kind of figure it out with them and get advice, or you just try it yourself and see if it works.
I could not agree more. That's so true. I think there's so many times that we hold ourselves back and we create this big, like ugly, hairy monster, this big,
Yeah.
huge thing. And then you actually do the thing that you're procrastinating. You're like, oh, that wasn't that big of a deal. It took me like
Right.
5 minutes.
Right.
And you're like, why did I waste so much time stressing about that if I would have
Exactly.
just done it?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's with people, with business, right? Sometimes we wait to have these hard conversations and then we dream about it or we think about it throughout the night. And then when you actually have it, it's not that bad.
Definitely. Now, if somebody is interested in working with you for the virtual assistants, because I feel like there's so many questions that are out there about virtual assistants, people are confused about how that process works. How would people reach out to you about that?
They can either call me, reach out to me on Facebook Messenger, right? And we could always leave our phone number on the bottom and then people could just contact me and schedule a call. We have a Calendly that people can schedule a call. And because it's one of those things where in the virtual world, people don't know, number one, how to hire. And even if they hire, they don't know what is the virtual assistant going to do. You see, and
Absolutely.
we can give so many ideas, so many ways to really help them accelerate their business through using a virtual assistant.
And if somebody's a medical professional and they know that they want to take it to the next level, they know
Yeah.
that they could expand their practice and make it so much more, is the best way to reach you through Facebook Messenger as well?
Facebook Messenger is the best way because it literally tracks everything that
Yeah.
I've talked to everyone through, right? So then I can look back at it and see, oh, yeah, this is what this person has asked me about, right? Because how we are able to help medical professionals, especially, is if they want to grow their practice, well, they got to make sure they have a good organic reach. They're not going to go and put the graphics on and videos on themselves. They need to use a virtual assistant. And then we also help with the marketing. And when their business is growing, my idea is if you trust us enough to use our services in marketing and virtual assistant, the extra money that you've made, we'll be able to help you stack it away and invest those as well in our properties and multifamily.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that especially from my financial services background, I think that's a lot of people struggle with that because they know they wanted to get into real estate, but
Mm-hmm.
they're confused about the process. They don't really know how all of that works, but they know they need to do something. Like you can't just leave it in your checking account earning less
No,
than 1% for 10 years. You know what I mean?
right,
You
right.
got to make
Inflation
that
will
money
eat you
do
away.
push-ups. Yep. Agreed.
That's it.
Yeah. Oh, I love the fact that you've created these businesses that really serve a need that you saw, and you've created this massive engine that is helping people do so much with their businesses, making them more efficient, helping them create this generational wealth is just incredible. So,
That's it.
if anybody is listening and is curious about finding out more information, I'll definitely be sure to link the Facebook Messenger as well as other links in the show notes so you can get those easy access. Thank you so much for being here with us today. I really appreciate this conversation. There were so many good things we talked about.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.